Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Links are in the description below. Please show some love of the author and me. On to the show.
Following Jixing, Lin You quickly rose into the sky and came to the ranks of the 10th level lords. At this time, a large number of 10th level people from various realms gathered in the team. They gathered together in twos and threes and chatted while marching with the army. It looked very lively. "Hey, isn't this Brother Xing? Long time no see." Suddenly, an old man came up to him and greeted Jixing with a smile. "It turns out it's Brother Kingsu. If you don't stay in the realm and take care of yourself, why are you here?" Jixing said half-jokingly. "Look what you said, in the battle between realms, of course an old man like me, have to do my part. I think you want to take the opportunity to get a few fragments of your godhead, right? Who here doesn't have this idea?" Old man Kingsu asked pointedly, and then he finally noticed Lin You beside him and couldn't help but glance at him. When Jixing saw this, he immediately introduced him. "He just came up in my principality. His name is Lin You. Brother Kingsu, please be more considerate of him in the future. He's actually from the Principality of you." "I'm so lucky." Kingsu looked at Lin You in surprise. "The resources in the Principality are not comparable to those of the Kingdom and Empire. It is not easy to rise to the 10th level. It can even be said to be extremely rare." However, the old man had obviously seen strong winds and waves. He just nodded to Lin You, came over and whispered, "Brother Xing, have you heard? A few days ago, the Emperor on the other side launched an attack on the 72 demons, trying to destroy the seal in the demon plane." "Is there such a thing?" Jixing and Lin You were both shocked. "The 72 demons are the key to the seal. If it is broken, the consequences will be disastrous." "What happened next? How did it go?" Lin You couldn't help but ask. "What else can we do? Of course we were blocked by the great Emperor here." Kingsu shrugged. "But I heard that the 72 heavenly demons seem to have declined a lot because the monster plane was destroyed, and their power was affected. Few weakened strength. Wouldn't that be dangerous?" Jixing asked in shock. "Their anti-alliance camp and the 72 heavenly demons are now barely in the same camp due to their interest relationship. If something happens to the 72 heavenly demons, the seal under the monster plane will definitely loosen, which may cause chaos. That's why the emperors are so eager to advance." Kingsu whispered, "Only by getting rid of the scourge of the realm alliance can future troubles be eliminated forever. But then again, that's a matter for the 12th level, and it has nothing to do with little people like us. You should just take care of yourself honestly." "That's true." Jixing nodded silently. "These 10th level lords are superior in the eyes of the earth level lords, but in front of the 12th level lords, they are just bigger ants. Even the emperors couldn't solve it, so it was useless for them to worry. The only thing that can be done is to take advantage of this opportunity to quickly improve his strength. Each more strength means more chance of survival, that's all." The three of them were chatting while flying, and followed the team as they continued to advance towards the territory of the Realm Alliance. Finally, after traveling thousands of kilometers, they advanced near the base camp of the Boundary Alliance. At a glance, he saw the Realm Alliance army waiting in formation on the opposite side, and the high-ranking lords standing all over the sky. "Everyone, follow the order and attack, rush, kill." Following the orders from the emperors, the anti-alliance camp directly sounded the horn of attack. Countless lord soldiers turned into a tide and surged towards the base camp of the Realm Alliance, causing the entire land to shake violently. "Everyone, rush with me, rush, kill them all." Not to be outdone, the Realm Alliance army rushed out of the camp and collided with them. Several 10th level lords wanted to take advantage of the opportunity to attack and kill the lower level lords, but they were immediately stopped by the 10th level lords from the anti-alliance side. Both sides have arranged for 10th level and 11th level lords to keep a close eye on them to prevent the people on the other side from taking action against the lower level leaders. "Let's hurry over." Jixing said something to Lin You, and immediately disappeared from the spot and joined the 10th level battle. High in the sky, the space continued to collapse, and the battlefields of the 11th and 12th levels gradually spread outwards, rising into the endless void. Lin You shuttled through space, followed Jixing's footsteps, and soon arrived at the chaotic area on the edge of the battlefield. The 10th level lords of both sides faced off in the air, and the atmosphere was extremely tense. And in front, there were several figures with terrifying aura standing in front of them. Their regular auras were almost twice as powerful as Lin Yu's. These people are obviously very close to the 11th level, and have at least 8 or more fragments of the godhead. They are definitely not something that Lin You can afford now. "Do it." Without giving him a chance to think too much, with a loud shout, the troops all over the sky and the earth were summoned. The kings also burst out with the power of rules, and the two sides collided fiercely. Boom! There was a loud noise, and large cracks appeared in the space. Jixing also fought with another 10th level warrior. The troops exchanged wild blows, and the whole scene instantly became a mess. "Boy, look here." Just as Lin You was observing the situation around him, the space in front of him was distorted, and several laser beams were shot out, heading towards his vital point. Lin You raised his arm, and a mirror wall blocked his face. With a boom, the laser exploded on the mirror wall. A muscular figure with mechanical prosthetics appeared and punched him. "Mechanical Lord." Lin Yu was slightly shocked. He felt the aura of 4 fragments of the godhead from the other party. Not daring to be careless, he immediately activated his damage reduction skills, and crossed his hands in front of him. Boom. There was a muffled sound, and his whole body was sent flying straight away. The powerful force blasted down his arm, and into his body, making his internal organs numb. What a powerful force. Even though he has the same number of divine fragments as him, his power is so much stronger than him. Needless to say, the other party must have added all attributes to strength, going to the extreme. If that's the case, then he has nothing to be afraid of. With a wave of his hand, an army of plants appeared instantly. Ling Shi and Kong Ming, who had the ability to fly, floated beside him, surrounded by lantern grass flying in the sky. Plant type. The mechanical lord raised his eyebrows in surprise and also summoned his mechanical army. There are more than 10,000 mechanical units, compared to Lin Yu's more than 5,000 plant units. The numerical difference is clear at a glance. You can't defeat me with just these troops, so take action. Hearing a loud shout from the machine lord, the mechanical army beneath him fired thousands of arrows, shooting lasers and missiles all over the sky towards Lin Yu. The huge number almost overwhelmed them all. That's not necessarily the case, Lingxi. Lin Yu shouted low, and Ling Shi beside him raised the staff in his hand. The crown on his head shone, and he burst out with endless majesty. The majesty of the king. Activate. In an instant, those mechanical soldiers were directly pressed to the ground by an invisible force. At the same time, they suffered the backlash of their skills, and a large short-circuit arc exploded on their bodies. This is... The mechanical lord's expression changed, and he looked at Ling Shi beside Lin Yu, in shock. Why has he never heard of plant-type soldiers having such powerful skills? And just when he was shocked, Qin Gang, who was in the team below, also held the 10-meter-long bamboo sword in front of him and directly launched the war barrier. Translucent barriers appeared in front of all melee units, facing the incoming laser missiles. Boom boom boom. Violent explosions echoed in the ears, and the barrier broke down, but it successfully blocked almost 3 times their attack. Then he quickly recovered under the treatment of the Flower Essence army at the rear. It seems that I underestimated you. Attack with all your strength. After the effect of King's Majesty wore off, the Machine Lord gave the order and launched a full-scale attack, and he flashed and appeared behind Lin Yu. The lightning on his prosthetic arm exploded, and sword blades filled the sky. It turned into an after-image and shot straight at Lin Yu, and at the same time he punched out. Lin Yu discovered that during this kind of battle, the surrounding space was extremely unstable, and there was no way to instantly travel through space to avoid attacks. Seeing the attack coming down, he immediately opened his hands, and a devouring force appeared, swallowing up all the blades. At the same time, he quickly retreated, using his strength to avoid the opponent's powerful punch. Lingxi Kongming, you guys go below to help. With a loud shout, he drew out his sword, and faced it again, colliding hard with the machine. The two of them were going back and forth in the air, fighting fiercely. The two armies below were furiously bombarding each other from a distance of hundreds of meters. Laser missiles were continuously fired, and vines and thorns were all over the ground. But Lin Yu's troop numbers were still at a disadvantage after all. Casualties began to appear soon after, and he was gradually forced back. Glory! Just then, Kong Ming arrived, accompanied by a mixed voice that could not be identified as male or female. A large dazzling light suddenly erupted from his body, illuminating the entire 1-kilometer range. Immediately afterwards, thousands of light's talents were triggered, and all the lanterns within the skill range burst into light, covering both armies in the blink of an eye. The plant soldiers, who were seriously injured and dying, instantly returned to their full strength. The troops on the opposite side exploded one after another under the light, killing a large number of troops at once. Xiao Kongming, that's okay. King Tang smiled sweetly, and taking advantage of this opportunity, vines suddenly rushed out, wrapped around the front row of chariot troops on the opposite side, and dragged them all into the vine forest. Come after me, Qin Gang shouted in a deep voice, started war trampling, and rushed straight towards the mechanical army. With the blessing of his 20% physical constitution and plant-type talent, the survivability of the melee troops is extremely strong. They can directly withstand the indiscriminate bombardment from the opposite side and advance, all the way to the front of the mechanical army. The Mushroom Demon King sitting on his head smiled slyly, and a terrifying poisonous gas spread out with her as the center. And in the blink of an eye, the entire 1 kilometer area was covered with various mushrooms. Boom boom boom. The sound of explosions was endless. Under the leadership of several royal families, the plants finally succeeded in stabilizing the situation and blocking the offensive of the mechanical army. Coupled with Lynx's unique 10% all-attribute blessing, their average attributes are higher than those of the mechanical soldiers. The troops on both sides came and went, and the fight turned out to be evenly matched. How can it be? The Machine Lord, who was fighting fiercely with Lin You in the air, was shocked. He had nearly 3 times the number of troops, but he couldn't defeat the opponent. The powerful strength shown by the royal troops prevented Lin You from being attacked by the opponent's troops. After hundreds of rounds of fierce fighting in the air, he collided with the Machine Lord suddenly and finally separated again. The two sides flew back hundreds of meters before they could stabilize themselves. You are very good. There are not many people at the same level who can fight like me. The mechanical lord stood up in the air, pulled apart his scrapped mechanical prosthetic limbs, and looked at Lin You deeply. Indeed, just as he said, among the lords with 4 godhead fragments, few can strengthen their power to this extent. After all, there is no way to deal with lord monsters, and the output of rule fragments is limited. If Lin Yu's racial talent hadn't improved his physique, he might not have been able to block the opponent's attack. Moreover, almost all lords who can reach the 10th level will have skills similar to the 4-leaf clover's protection, which cannot be used as an advantage at all. Lin Yu shook his arm that was so shaken that the skin was split, and said, "Are you still going to keep your hand?" The final trump card of the mechanical system, Mechanical Overload, has not yet been used by the opponent. For this reason, he also specially left Savage Roar and various major skills useless, just to prevent the opponent's sudden outburst. Unexpectedly, this guy was so calm that he didn't even bother to use Mechanical Overload after fighting for so long. "Since you want to die so much, then I will help you." The mechanical lord's face turned cold, his aura surged crazily, and there was faint electric light flowing around him. Coming, with a sharp look in his eyes, Lin You was ready to respond in an explosive manner. However, at this moment, a dazzling light suddenly erupted from the black light pillar closest to them in the distance, and at the same time, it rushed into the sky with a terrifying power. All the 10th level lords, who were fighting fiercely, stopped because of this sudden change, and looked in the direction of the light pillar. "Dragon King, I didn't expect you to join forces with the demon." An angry sound exploded in the void, causing the whole world to shake violently. All the 10th level people were shocked, because that was the voice of the great emperor. Could it be that something went wrong in the battle at the emperor level? Before they could think about it, the Dragon King's arrogant laughter spread throughout the sky. "The enemy of your enemy is your friend. Don't you understand this? Do it. Damn it, get out careful." There was only a loud rumble, wind and clouds surged, thunder boomed, and the entire space above the monster plane was shaking violently. Above the gray sky, blood was like pillars, turning into blood rain and falling downwards, covering the sky with a layer of blood. Lin You was shocked. "Great Emperor, an emperor has fallen, and there's more than one." Although he couldn't see it, he could feel some extremely terrifying auras suddenly disappearing. Combined with the conversation just now, it is obvious that their side has the upper hand. The 10th level members of the Realm Alliance looked at each other in shock and confusion. After a while, the faces of the leading people finally darkened. "Withdraw." With a loud shout, the 10th level lords, who were fighting, immediately recalled their troops and evacuated quickly. "Want to run? It's not that easy. Hurry up." The victory of the Emperor level battle cheered up the spirit of the anti-alliance side. Not willing to let them go so easily, he suddenly jumped up and chased after them with his troops. A few of the weaker ones were immediately stopped. Under the beating of a group of 10th level lords, they were furious. Several fragments of the godhead emitting colorful haloes exploded, and were taken by several powerful old lords among them. The mechanical lord in front of Lin You also saw the opportunity, and wanted to escape through space. "You can't leave." Lin You shouted low, and the power of rules exploded all over his body, and an invisible wave instantly enveloped the machine lord. It is Kong Ming's skill. Empty space. The mechanical lord, who originally wanted to activate his ability, suddenly changed his expression. He did not expect that a plant type would have such an ability, and his eyes full of murderous intent immediately locked onto Lin You. "I remember you." With a harsh word, he directly activated the mechanical overload, and his aura suddenly doubled. Then he punched out, shattering the surrounding space. His body flashed, and he disappeared into it. Really, for opponents whose attributes are much higher than your own, the skill effects can also be broken through with brute force. However, the mechanical overload skill only lasts 25 seconds. Once this time passes, the opponent will instantly lose all combat capabilities, and should not be able to run very far. Lin You didn't hesitate, and immediately joined the large army, and joined them in hunting down the Realm Alliance team at the same time. The low-level battlefield also won the first battle, successfully breaking through the base camp of the Realm Alliance, and starting to advance into the Taiyan realm. Wherever he went, corpses were strewn, and the entire land was dyed red. When they advanced deep into the mainland, they had to stop the attack because the opponent's support arrived. We won, the lords cheered loudly, celebrating the victory of this battle. Above the void, the atmosphere is even more active. A group of great emperors gathered together, staring at the 4 12th level goat heads of colorful glazed glass in front of them, and a black god head exuding a faint light, their faces full of joy. The Realm Alliance is really generous. They left us so much divine power before leaving. Yes, it shows that our plan this time was successful. What should we do with these gods? The great emperors all stared closely at the god head in front of them. Even those who reached their level could not help but show a look of longing. After the completion of the 12th level god head, there is no way to integrate other goat heads, but they can rely on the god head to enhance their strength. This is also the reason why there is a gap in strength between emperors. The Dragon King on the side thought for a moment, and then whispered, "The old rule is that the highest bidder gets it, and the price paid is divided equally among the players. As for this black god head, my suggestion is to take it back and study it first. I also think we should study it. This power is too weird." Another emperor followed closely and said, "Okay, let's do it like this." Other emperors agreed. Then the great emperors from all walks of life gathered around and started bidding for the 4 pieces of Godhead, and the whole void was filled with excitement. And at this time, in the battlefield below, after the battle, Lin You quickly joined Jizing. "How's it going? Have you successfully obtained the fragments of the Godhead?" Jizing asked. "It's not that easy." Lin You smiled bitterly. 10th level lords, even those with a Godhead, are very difficult to kill. They will escape through space whenever they get a chance, let alone those with stronger strength. After all, who can reach this level who didn't climb out of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood? Only by surprise like just now. With a large group of people besieging a few, could we finally succeed? Haha, it's good to get used to it. If fragments of the Godhead were so easy to obtain, there wouldn't be so few 11th level lords. Jizing smiled and patted his shoulder. There was no fighting at this time, and Lin Yu's aura of rules was not revealed. Therefore, Jizing did not perceive the number of gods in Lin Yu, and only thought that he was just starting out and needed more experience. But what he said was not unreasonable. The reason why there are so few tier 11 is mainly because tier 10 is difficult to kill. It seems that we need to seize the time to improve the attributes of ourselves and the royal family. Lin Yu thought silently, like the battle with the machine lord just now, if his average attributes can reach 100,000, coupled with the skills of the royal family, there is still a high chance that he can be killed successfully. Let's go. It's time for us to go back and join the team. As he spoke, Jizing dodged and rushed back in the direction of the anti-alliance army. Lin Yu, on the other hand, took a deep look at the pillar of light not far away, and then followed in his footsteps soon. The two returned to the plain where the army gathered. What Lin Yu didn't expect was that as soon as he appeared through space, he met an old acquaintance, the king of the 7 evils of the Taixuan realm. "It's you, Jizing." Seeing Jizing appear, Chisha's originally smiling expression suddenly dropped. "It turns out it's you, so unlucky." Jizing's eyes also turned cold, and he stared at Chisha closely. Chisha wanted to say something else, but when he saw Lin Yu next to Jizing, he was stunned. Then as if he thought of something, his eyes gradually narrowed. "Boy, I didn't expect you to reach the 10th level." Obviously, he recognized Lin Yu's identity. The ant that he casually hit, and was seriously injured at the beginning, was now standing at the same height as himself, which made him a little surprised. At the same time, his mind was active, and the way he looked at Lin Yu became different, even with a hint of murderous intention. "Chisha, I advise you not to hit his attention, otherwise we in the primitive world will not let you go." Jizing didn't know what Chisha was paying attention to. He just wanted to seize the fragments of Godhead from Lin Yu when he had just risen, and was still a fledgling. Usually this kind of newly upgraded 10th level lord is the easiest to kill. "Look what you said. We are allies now. How can I have any evil intentions?" Chisha said with a smile. Then he took a deep look at Lin Yu, turned around and left, for the first time without getting entangled with them. But precisely because of this, Jizing had to be vigilant, and immediately said to Lin Yu, beside him, "Be careful when you go out in the future. This guy may be targeting you." "Target me?" Lin Yu couldn't help but look in the direction where Chisha left. A cold light flashed in his eyes. He remembered the revenge of that day clearly. If he hadn't possessed the divine power, he would have been killed by the opponent long ago, And how could he still be standing here properly? Want to seize the fragments of his godhead? It's still unclear who will grab whom by then. Certainly, he is not a reckless person either. Before taking action, you must make a thorough plan. So he didn't think too much and followed Jixing's words. Don't worry, I will be careful. That's good. Jixing nodded. That guy Chisha once had an only son, who was killed by people from our realm on the battlefield. So he always held a grudge against us, and often took the opportunity to cause trouble. They have secretly killed many of us, so it's best to avoid them in the future. That's it. Lin You suddenly realized. He now finally understands why the other party targets their primitive world everywhere. And in the middle of their conversation, the space was distorted, and Emperor Xinyao suddenly appeared in front of them. All the kings of the Xinyao Empire are gathering here. I have something good for you. Any good stuff? Lin Yu's eyes lit up and he immediately gathered with the other 10 kings. Emperor Xinyao didn't hesitate, and took out a few things, and said, in this battle, we successfully killed the 5 emperors on the opposite side, and got a lot of good things. I will give you some to take back to improve your strength. 5 great emperors. All the kings, including Lin Yu, were shocked and filled with shock. That's the great emperor, the most pinnacle existence in the realm. 5 people died at once, which was a bit exaggerated. You don't have to think too much. Where there is war, there will be dead people. No matter how powerful the emperor is, he is still a human being. Emperor Xinyao smiled slightly and seemed to be in a good mood. Although he didn't get the godhead, he was allocated a lot of resources, and overall he gained a lot. While he was talking, a large pile of rule fragments appeared in front of him, giving each king a full 50 pieces. Lin Yu was pleasantly surprised. He didn't expect that after a big battle, there would be such an unexpected fortune. 50 rule fragments are equivalent to 200 attribute points. Even if distributed evenly, it will increase all attributes by 50 points. This is much more than other frivolous things. Emperor Xinyao really has nothing to say to the people under his command. For a while, all the kings looked happy, and thanked each other, attracting the attention of the primitive lords nearby. Many people's eyes fell on Lin Yu, who was standing among the kings, with a confused expression. Is that the king of the recently established Xinyu Principality? You look so young. You must be less than 30 years old, right? Isn't it possible? It is said that people in the 10th level can live to be 1,000 years old. Maybe they just look young. I also think they might be hundreds of years old. The lords of various countries were discussing in low voices, and the topic basically revolved around Lin Yu, the new king. The newly arrived lords of Xinyu Principality were extremely excited, because it was the first time that they saw what the king of their principality looked like, and it was also the first time that they saw so many important people. Unfortunately, Emperor Xinyao did not stay long. After all the resources were distributed, he disappeared to the same place, and joined the other great emperors. Then, with the combined efforts of the great emperors from all walks of life, they once again launched the Tongshan method to move the war camps in the Taixuan world to prevent the Realm Alliance from regaining the lost ground. Okay, the next war may take a few days to prepare for the war before it starts. I will go back to the Principality first, Jixing said to Lin Yu, and disappeared in a flash with the newly acquired resources. Just as Lin Yu was about to leave, he was suddenly stopped by a shout in the distance. Lin Yu, wait a minute. In the primitive world's team, 2 figures hurriedly ran out. Shockingly, it was Yanlai and Sidujian. Is it you? Lin Yu's eyes lit up. Looking back, they hadn't seen each other for several days. Apparently these 2 guys had waited until they had finished before coming out. Well, luckily I caught up. Yanlai quickly came to him, and let out a sigh of relief. It's really not easy to meet you now, Sidujian said helplessly. Well, I've been busy dealing with matters in the Principality recently, so I forgot to inform you. Lin Yu smiled awkwardly. You have the nerve to say that you rose to the 10th level, without saying a word and without telling us. You don't treat us as friends, Yanlai said with some resentment. Haha, I'm sorry. There have been too many things going on recently, and I can't get away from it. I'll catch up when you reach 10th level in the future. This is what you said. Situ and I have obtained a lot of resources on the battlefield recently. If we reach the 10th level by then, you have to come over. Okay, it's a deal. It's a deal. Yanlai and Lin, you were not separated by the level gap. If friends become strangers because of this, they cannot be called friends. Moreover, Lin Yu knew that both of them were people of great perseverance, and believed that it would only be a matter of time before they could successfully reach the 10th level. So after chatting on the spot for a while, they said goodbye to each other and went about their own business. Return to the territory. Lin Yu called Lingxi over directly. Lingxi, try to see if you can absorb this fragment of rules. He took out a crystal with rules flowing from his personal space. Good. Lingxi didn't say anything. She responded and stretched out her hand to summon the rule crystal to her. Then, the power of rules in that fragment turned into flowing light, and quickly integrated into her body. Upon seeing this, Lin Yu immediately clicked on her attribute interface, and took a look, and found that each of her attributes had increased by 1 point, adding up to the same 4 points. Is there no way to specifically strengthen a single attribute? Lin You asked. No, Ling Xi shook her head. We can only strengthen the whole. That's it, Lin You murmured in a low voice, with a thoughtful look on his face. It seems that there are still some subtle differences between the gods and lords of the royal family, and it is not possible to choose the attributes to be strengthened at will. But even so, the fact that the royal family can improve attributes is still very powerful. After coming to the conclusion, Lin You let Ling Xi move freely, while he sat under the world tree, leaving 3 rule fragments to study the arms, and absorbed all the remaining 46 fragments. After experiencing the battle with the Machine Lord, he already understood the importance of agility in dodging attacks during combat, because during the battle, the opponent's power of rules will interfere with the surrounding space. Casting space shuttle will be possible, but the consumption will be greatly increased, which is not good for a protracted battle. At this time, relying on speed to get out of the way has become a better choice. Otherwise, sooner or later, the power of the rules will be exhausted, and people will be left to their own devices. Certainly, when escaping, space travel is still the fastest and most practical, and there is no need to consider the issue of consumption. This is what Lin You learned after a battle, so he changed the direction of strengthening and distributed the 8 attributes in a ratio of 1:3:1:3, mainly to strengthen physical and mental strength. After strengthening his attributes in this direction, his personal interface has also undergone considerable changes. Name, Lin You. Lord. Race, human. Level 10, 4/10. Strength, 50,024, plus 20,010. Physique, 50,070, plus 28,039. Agility, 50,024, plus 20,010. Spirit, 50,070, plus 20,028. Basic skills, double mutation, power of rules, space shuttle, rule transformation, power of Godhead, all attributes plus 40%. Racial talent, physical fitness plus 16%, recovery speed plus 16%. Introduction. The Lord attribute interface records the specific strength and various skills of the Lord, which can be unlocked by 10th level lords. All of a sudden, Lin Yu's average attributes increased by more than 40 points. Only a few days had passed, which was much faster than he expected. Subsequently, he called out the original space again to check the reproduction status of that galaxy. Suddenly, Lin Yu was confused. He discovered that in one of the galaxies near the World Tree, there was actually a planet on which terrestrial life had begun to appear. Is it possible that we are preparing to evolve intelligent creatures? Lin Yu's eyes lit up instantly. Compared with primitive creatures and intelligent creatures, the faith they can provide is absolutely incomparable. That is to say, when these creatures begin to produce wisdom, his faith will take a qualitative leap, producing dozens or even dozens of fruits of faith. Every day is no longer a dream. Very good, let's keep developing at this rate. Lin Yu thought silently, and it actually felt like he was watching the world multiply. I don't know what this unexpected original universe will look like in the end. If it were a world of cultivation, the intelligent creatures inside spent their entire lives cultivating to the extreme, and finally broke through the dimensional barriers, and ascended to the fairyland they longed for. It turned out to be the ghost of the current realm war. I don't know what I would think. Also, do they have to call themselves the creation god, Daddy? All kinds of strange thoughts appeared in Lin Yu's mind, and the more he thought about it, the weirder the expression on his face became. Lin Yu, I'm here to see you. At this moment, a familiar shout came from outside, interrupting his thoughts. Magern. Lin Yu raised his head in surprise. He immediately recovered his mind, and appeared outside the palace gate. Sure enough, I saw Magan leading a huge team of dwarves swaggering through the city, attracting countless passers-by to stop. That is the symbol of the royal family of the Dwarf Kingdom. Immediately, someone recognized the symbols on those flags and exclaimed. The people nearby were in an uproar when they heard this. Dwarf Kingdom, is the one at the front the Dwarf King, who just came to power some time ago? Hiss. Dwarf King, even such a big shot came here in person. What is the origin of King Shinyu? Don't worry about this for now. Go back and inform the head of the family. Quick, tell the leader this news. The emergence of the Dwarf Kingdom can be said to have caused thousands of waves, especially when the Dwarf King arrived in person and arrived in such a grand formation. It gave off even more meaning. The Dwarf Kingdom has a relationship with the Shinyu Principality. I thought that Huangsha City only had a small dwarf tribe, but I didn't expect that it actually involved the Dwarf Kingdom. Shocked, the passers-by could not sit still, and immediately sent people back to inform the forces behind them. Even the low-level lords, who came to the royal city by airship to do business, were so shocked that they started talking and asking about the situation in the channel. Magern, Why did you come here in person? After confirming that it was Magan, Lin You went directly to greet him. Ha ha, didn't I hear that you established the Principality? I came to congratulate you. Isn't it welcome? Magan said with a big beard. At this time, he was wearing a God of War suit, and he could feel a heart-stopping aura a few meters away, which was several times stronger than when he saw it before. Have you broken through to the 10th level? Lin You asked in shock. To know, the God of War suit has the effect of increasing the strength level by 1 level. In other words, at this time, Magan can already exert his 11th level strength. Heave, are you envious? Magan said with a wink, a look on his face. Can I say I'm not envious? Lin You wanted to punch him. If it weren't for the God of War suit that only the Dwarf King could equip, he would have wanted to take the equipment off and wear it on himself. But since Magan came in person, he naturally welcomed him very much. He patted Magan's shoulder hard. Come on, sit inside and take a look at my newly built palace, and the elf flower brew specially prepared for you. Elven flower brew. Magan's eyes widened. Then what are you waiting for? Come in quickly. After saying that, he and Lin You walked into the palace gate. The intimate look of the people holding each other's arms made the passers-by stunned. The king of the Shinyu Principality has such a good relationship with the Dwarf King. Magan's honor guard did not leave until evening. During this period, Lin You mainly talked with him about the Dwarf Kingdom settling in the Shinyu Principality, and planned to open a new dwarf settlement here. Lin You naturally welcomed this very much. With the connection with the forging country, more and more businessmen and practitioners will definitely be attracted to come here. Why worry about the economic development not being able to develop by then? Before leaving, Magan also took away the materials of the 5 10th level monsters, and promised to help him build a useful weapon. Okay, let's send it here. Magan stood in the teleportation array and said to Lin You, outside the array, well, I'll come and see you again when I have the chance. Lin You led a convoy to watch them off. Then the light lit up, and the entire dwarf team instantly disappeared into the formation, and teleported back to the Dwarf Kingdom. After handling this matter, Lin You spoke to the team behind him, and teleported to the world tree in the palace. After these few days of hard work, the development of the Principality has basically been on the right track. Every day, each city will automatically pay 7% of the day's transaction volume as tax. This ratio is the best ratio that Lin You has obtained after managing Huangsha City for so long. Not too low, not too high, just within the reasonable range acceptable to the Principality and the people. According to this ratio, the daily tax revenue is almost 90 million, plus the usage fee of the Principality channel. It just reaches 100 million. This is still a situation where there are no high-ranking lords in the Principality to manage the city. As for faith, it is basically stabilized at around 8,000 points per day, which is not far from the level of the Great Wilderness Principality. This is also thanks to the addition of the new lords, which has greatly increased the amount of faith gained. The large territory is also another main reason. So what he has to do now is to accumulate magic energy and recruit all the troops. Then use the rule fragments you get every day to continuously strengthen your own attributes. Now each unit requires 2.5 million just to recruit. If a combat unit is mutated 3 or 4 times, it will cost hundreds or tens of millions. Don't look at his 100 million revenue a day, which is enough to mutate a dozen types of soldiers, which is not even enough to equal the losses in the previous battle with the Machine Lord. It seems that we have to go to a deeper place, in the monster plane tomorrow. While murmuring, Lin You glanced at the darkening sky, then did not do anything else, and just dodged back to the palace. Your Majesty, do you want to arrange your bedtime tonight? The attendants guarding outside heard the movement, and immediately shouted into the palace. Go to bed. Lin You paused and looked out the door. It is said that ancient emperors had 3,000 harems, but I didn't expect that this world also had them. But as a lord, he walked on the edge of a knife every day, and he might lose his life at any time, and his life was precarious. Love is too luxurious for him, and he doesn't want to spoil a woman he has never met before. After all, it is a lifelong thing for a girl. Let them stand down. After saying something to the outside, he lay down directly on the bed to rest. Yes, the attendant replied, but there was no more movement. Early the next morning, Lin You set off for the realm battlefield as soon as daybreak. After confirming that no one was following him, he directly shuttled through space and disappeared into the station. After a while, he passed through the chaotic zone and entered the monster plane. This is the first time since the fusion of all realms that he has truly entered the monster plane. What surprised him very much was that the monster plane at this time was filled with a faint evil aura, and he didn't know if it was leaking from the seal. Under the influence of this breath, even the outermost monsters are at the 8th level, and it is not easy for a 6th level lord to get in. However, after 7th level lords have 8th level troops, they can form a team to explore together. Lin You didn't think much. He selected one of the light pillars that symbolized one of the 72 demons and rushed there, constantly shuttling back and forth in the space. And at this time, in the direction he was going, the 9th level lords of the two realm alliances were quietly approaching an anti-alliance lord who was fighting a monster. Hey, I didn't expect to encounter a lone man. I'll attack from the side later. You are responsible for going around and making sure he doesn't get away. Do you even need to tell me? No one who is against the alliance can be left behind. With that said, the two alliance members restrained their voices and approached the lord in two directions, with cruel smiles on their faces. However, the next second, a sudden change occurred. The two had just advanced not far when a terrifying and boundless force suddenly appeared, like an invisible hand, grabbing their throats and pressing them to the ground. Puff, blood splash, and two huge wooden thorns rushed out from the ground, instantly piercing their chests. There is no ability to resist. Kill the 9th level lord of the alien plane. Obtain 100 million mana, 1 battlefield merit point, and 9th level territory essence x1. Kill the 9th level lord of the alien plane. Obtain 80 million mana, 1 battlefield merit point, and 9th level territory essence x1. Only 1 point of merit. High in the sky, Lin You was surprised to hear the prompts in his mind. After reaching the 10th level, the merit gained from killing the 9th level lord also decreased. His hope of earning merit by slaughtering the 9th level lords was instantly dashed. But think about it, if the high level lords on their side massacre the low level lords on the opposite side, it will definitely lead to a retaliatory massacre on the opposite side. For both parties, it was a self-destructive move, and the emperors naturally did not respect it. As for whether there is anyone doing this kind of thing secretly, it is unknown. Since the 9th level lord was not of much value, he did not stay for long. He disappeared in a flash and continued to rush deeper. The lord who was fighting the monster felt something in his heart. He turned around in confusion, but found nothing and suddenly became strange. Little did he know that he had just walked through the door of hell. After experiencing dozens of extreme space shuttles, Lin You finally came to a place less than 3,000 kilometers away from the light pillar and stopped. It's not that he doesn't want to move on, but he had just entered the 3,000 kilometers range when he encountered a lord-level monster. That's right, it is the Lord Monster, an F-level wind elemental master. This was the first time Lin You saw a lord monster above level 10. On the wasteland where the scorching sun shines, a gale elemental statue hundreds of meters high stands proudly. The terrifying momentum of his body actually directly affected the environment within a range of dozens of kilometers, blowing violent winds and tearing open countless cracks in the space. On the earth, there are still a large number of 10th level ordinary wind elements wandering around. It is not an exaggeration to call this place Storm Canyon. As soon as Lin You got close, he found that several 10th level lords, like him, had arrived early. There are those from the anti-alliance camp, and those from the Realm Alliance, all standing in the air across the outer edge of the wasteland, wary of each other. Lin You also took this opportunity to explore the properties of the Lord's monster. Name, Lord Gale. Lord. Race, Element. Level 10, Level F. Strength, 93,200, plus 18,640. Physique, 93,200, plus 18,640. Agility, 97,000, plus 19,400. Spirit, 97,000, plus 19,400. Skills, Wind Blade, Wind Shield, Hurricane Flurry, Fierce Storm, Chaos, all attributes increased by 20%. Introduction. The ruler of the wind element, the power of the storm that destroys heaven and earth will destroy all enemies who dare to approach. All attributes are above 100,000. Agility and spirit have reached a terrifying 110,000. Lin You was shocked. Although he had been mentally prepared, he still couldn't help but be a little shocked when he saw it with his own eyes. Even with such terrifying monsters stationed on the outside, wouldn't it be even more terrifying near the light pillar? There are also those 10th level lords nearby. Although the number of fragments of their godhead cannot be sensed for the time being, one can faintly sense the extraordinary nature of two of the old men. His aura was so strong that he was 3 points more powerful than the machine lord he met yesterday. They all have at least 5 pieces of godhead, and their attributes have also been greatly strengthened. It's not easy to handle, Lin You murmured to himself, his brows gradually wrinkled. With so many 10th level lords, there is still a good chance that they can kill this Lord Gale. But the problem is that his strength is only average here, and it is not easy to grab the rule fragments. And it is said that the higher the chaos level of the Lord monster, the more rule fragments the power will condense after death. For F level, there will only be 2 pieces. Each level increases by 1 piece. For SS level, it is exactly 10 pieces, but not everyone can deal with that level. With Qin Gang's explosion, I should be able to suppress them for 2 seconds. At this time, Ling Xi appeared beside him and whispered, "Are you sure?" Lin Yu's eyes lit up when he heard this. 2 seconds is already a very long time for the 10th level, but even so, it is not easy to grab things from so many powerful 10th level hands. Forget it, let's take a look at the situation first. Although the 2 rule fragments were precious, they were not enough to make him desperate. Apparently, others thought so, too. After waiting for a while to see if anyone else came, one of the old men said loudly, "Everyone, how about joining forces to kill? The treasures all depend on their own abilities." "That's exactly what I meant," another old man responded in a deep voice. "The 2 of them are the 2 strongest people currently. With them taking the lead, the others couldn't be happier," and responded one after another. The 9 10th level lords, including Lin You, quickly reached a consensus and began to approach Lord Crack from all directions. "Do it!" Hearing a loud shout from the white-haired old man, he flashed and appeared beside Lord Gale Wind. At the same time, tens of thousands of beast soldiers appeared and surrounded Lord Gale Wind. Upon seeing this, Lin Yu teleported to Lord Gale's side together with the other lords, and also summoned troops to attack. "Array up!" Another black-haired old man had a voice as loud as a bell. He waved his hand, and the humanoid bow and arrow soldiers formed a row, and shot out arrows that filled the sky, roaring towards Lord Gale Wind. However, the 10th level Lord monster is obviously not so easy to deal with. As soon as they took action, Lord Gale's momentum exploded and he shot a large number of air blades in all directions. At the same time, the ordinary wind elements scattered around were also summoned, and quickly surrounded them. "Qin Gang!" Lin Yu shouted, and King Gong immediately opened the war barrier, and all the ancient tree soldiers blocked the front with shields. Ivy and the Mushroom Demon King were in the rear to resist the attack of ordinary wind elements. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The sharp wind blades continuously hit the shield, exploding cracks. After a while, King Gang's war barrier burst apart. Wind blades were flying all over the sky, blowing on the ancient tree soldiers in the front row, easily tearing open holes. Even if their physical strength reached more than 80,000, they still could not block the powerful attack of Lord Gale. "Group therapy!" Ling Shi shouted lowly, and the Flower Spirit army beside him immediately raised their staffs to treat the front row. When Tunton opened his mouth, a protective barrier appeared. The protective barrier after the 10th level covers an area of 1 kilometer, covering the entire plant army at once. With these 2 blessings, he finally managed to block the wind blade of the Gale element. Just one face-to-face fully demonstrated the advantages of plant defense. The other lords nearby suffered more or less casualties, and their troops fell to pieces. When the wind blade gradually dissipated, several people finally broke out again. All-out attack! With loud shouts, several heroic soldiers and their team roared, and led the team towards the Gale element, and violently attacked it. Suddenly, dense attacks emerged crazily, falling on the crack elements, exploding with light of various attributes. The 10th level lord at the rear was not idle either. The power of rules was circulating, turning into a series of terrifying power that suddenly fell down. Then Lin Yu clearly felt the divine aura in the 2 old men's bodies, which was as much as 5 pieces. It was exactly what he had guessed just now. Venerable Gale Wind roared repeatedly, but was gradually suppressed by the offensive attacks of the 2 old men, and was trapped in place unable to move. So strong. Lin Yu was secretly shocked. To be able to fight such a 10th level lord monster was something he thought was impossible. The average attributes of these 2 people may have reached more than 100,000. "Be careful, don't rush too hard," Lin Yu said to several royal families through spiritual contact. Since there was a strong man blocking him in front, there was no need for him to work so hard. He slowly fished on the side and eliminated the wind element monsters surrounding him. "Kill the 10th level monster and obtain 100,000 magic energy. Kill the 10th level monster and obtain 100,000 magic energy. Kill the 10th level monster and obtain 100,000 magic energy." An ordinary monster actually has so much magic power. Listening to the reminders that kept ringing in his mind, Lin Yu's eyes brightened. He is short of magic energy now. He doesn't need so much magic energy, so he immediately mobilizes his troops and generals to work harder to kill those ordinary wind elements. And he activated the power of rules, rushed out a series of vines to control Lord Gale, and assisted the attack from behind. After several rounds of siege, Lord Gale finally became angry. With a roar, terrifying tornadoes connecting heaven and earth suddenly blew up around his body, sweeping towards all directions. Wherever he went, sand and rocks flew, and clouds gathered, as if the whole world was being torn apart. "No, get out!" The expressions of the 10th level lords, who were attacking, changed, and they all withdrew with their troops. Some of the slower running troops were directly swept up into the sky by the hurricane, and were torn into pieces in the space cracks, sprinkling large amounts of blood. Fortunately, Lin You was prepared and was the first to evacuate, only losing a few ancient trees. But the crazy tornado seemed to have locked onto them, and kept approaching them at high speed. Even the huge rocks around them were swept up into the sky. The scene was extremely terrifying. Is this the power of a skill with 110,000 attributes? Buzz. At this moment, the forest sage in the team directly activated the peace domain. An invisible ripple spread out, and the originally menacing tornado hurricane dissipated instantly. Together with the surrounding ones, they all turned into nothingness in an instant, as if they had never appeared. The other lords all looked at Lin You, who was in the center of the ripples, full of surprise. Even the two old men couldn't help but glance at him. A powerful offensive skill that can clear away the lord's monsters all at once. What kind of method is this? However, before they even think about it, Lord Gale's roar pulled them back again, and his expression changed again. Continue the attack. With an order, the soldiers launched another offensive and surrounded Lord Lifeng. After having the experience against the enemy, they became much more comfortable in dealing with it, so they let the melee troops watch from the front, while they and the long-range troops dealt with it from behind. Seeing a bad opportunity, he immediately retreated to avoid the attack. Although Venerable Gale Wind was unwilling to give in, he could only roar angrily. Under their joint siege, his aura gradually weakened, and he showed his decline. Finally, after several rounds of attacks, the limbs were shattered, revealing a wind element core with a hurricane inside. Success! Everyone was shocked and looked at Lord Gale's dilapidated body. As long as that core can be destroyed, it can be successfully killed, and they will all be ready to move certainly. They are not the kind of boys who are just starting out. They will not rush forward so recklessly. Instead, they are secretly vigilant. As expected, Venerable Lifeng seemed to feel that his death was coming, and suddenly he looked up to the sky and roared. In an instant, an extremely terrifying aura erupted on it, and the whole world was filled with wind and clouds. Thunder and lightning roared, as if a catastrophe had come to the world. Astonishingly, it is its last skill, Fear Storm. If it were activated, there would probably be a large number of casualties. The expressions of all the 10th level lords suddenly changed in shock, and they hurriedly retreated. It's now. Lin Yu's eyes flashed, and he finally seized this opportunity and directly used the power of the rules to launch a savage roar. The moment the red light spread, the cannon that had been waiting for a long time finally took action. Bang! Sparks exploded, and a fiery red bullet shot out like a meteor, piercing the sun, disappearing in front of the cannon in the blink of an eye. It is its 10th level skill, Space Compression. With the blessing of 42% of the attributes of Savage Roar, no one even had time to react to what was going on. The fiery red stream of light had already penetrated the space, and exploded in the core of Lord Gale with a boom. Venerable Gale, who was still gathering strength to prepare for a desperate fight, stopped moving, and the strong wind gathering around him dissipated instantly. Congratulations! You successfully killed the 10th level Lord Monster, and gained 100 million mana. As a prompt sounded, a stream of gray energy floated out from Lord Gale's core, and quickly integrated into Lin Yu's body. But before he could check it, Lord Gale's body exploded with a bang, and two rule fragments shining with colorful halos, and a treasure wrapped in golden light scattered in all directions. By bad luck, the two rule fragments flew in the opposite direction to him, and only the treasure shot towards him. Without hesitation, he disappeared from the spot, pocketed the treasure, and then reappeared next to a piece of rule fragment, ready to take it down. You're too greedy. But at this moment, an old voice sounded. The old man from the Realm Alliance suddenly appeared, and powerful space power gathered and poured towards Lin Yu. So fast. Lin Yu was shocked. He didn't expect the other party to react so quickly, so he had to give up the rule fragments and storm out. Boom! There was a loud noise, and a huge deep pit was instantly opened where he was standing, and large terrifying cracks appeared on the ground. The strength of the 5 Godhead fragments is indeed terrifying. Just as he was retreating violently, several other 10th level lords also focused on the treasure in his hand and surrounded him. Lingxi. Amidst the loud shouts, Lingxi appeared beside him, holding the staff high in his hand, and activated the majesty of the king. What? The expressions of several 10th level lords changed, and they felt a vast coercion envelope their bodies, making them unable to move. Use this opportunity. Lin Yu directly waved his hand, took back all the troops, and escaped by means of space shuttle. It was only then that a few people finally broke free from the majesty of the king. When they wanted to catch up again, they could no longer feel Lin Yu's aura. Apparently they have escaped from their original space coverage. The 2 rule fragments were also snatched by the 2 strongest old men. The battle finally came to an end here the other side. After traveling through space several times, Lin Yu had arrived thousands of kilometers away. Seeing that no pursuers were coming, he stopped, took out what he had just obtained, and began to examine it. Much to my surprise, the treasure obtained this time is very similar to the national treasure, obtained by killing the leader level Thunder Wolf King before. It is also a jade seal passed down from the country. The only difference is that the sculpture above has turned into a tornado. Then an information interface appeared in front of him. Treasure of the country, Eye of the Storm, item level, F level, territory effect. The consumption of wind skills is reduced by 2%, and the casting speed of wind skills is increased by 2%. National effect, resource regeneration speed increased by 18%, faith acquisition increased by 17%. Introduction. The most important treasure of the country can be used on the country it is in charge of to obtain additional bonuses. Only one can be effective at the same time. Improve faith and gain. Lin You was surprised when he saw the attributes in front of him. The national treasure actually has this kind of additional effect. The F level has already increased by 17%. How about a higher level national treasure? If he can get it, the daily acquisition speed of his faith will definitely be greatly increased. Moreover, this is a national effect, and should take effect on all territories in the Principality, just like the previous holy objects can take effect on the territory's citizens. It seems that this is also the main reason why those high-ranking lords moved away. After all, it is basically impossible for a newly advanced king to obtain a too high-level national treasure. This will only affect the speed at which they gain faith, although more than 10% will not see any effect in a short period of time. In the long run, the gap will gradually widen. This is why lords want to relocate to a powerful country. We have to find opportunities to get a higher level national treasure in the future. Lin You murmured to himself, his expression gradually becoming serious. A higher level national treasure means that you have to kill a higher level lord monster before you can obtain it. With his current strength, it would be difficult to deal with an F level opponent, so he would have to accumulate strength for a while. Correct. Suddenly, he thought that, when he killed Lord Gale just now, there seemed to be an energy integrated into his body. He immediately calmed down and looked carefully. After checking around, Lin You finally knew where the gray energy had gone. It was actually absorbed directly by the original space. Or, it is because of the existence of the original space that the opponent's energy is absorbed when killing the Lord monster. This situation has never occurred even when killing the leader monster before. It is obviously unique to the Lord monster, or it is the mutation that occurred after his original space evolved into the universe. This is not the point. What surprised Lin You the most was that after the original space absorbed that energy, the reproduction of creatures inside actually accelerated. The fruits of faith, that were originally only 2 per day directly turned into 3. This growth rate is simply outrageous. Could it be that? Can the energy gained from killing the Lord monster speed up the reproduction of the universe? If that's the case, that's great news for him. Although he can't kill the Lord monster independently now, he can speculate. Anyway, as long as you get the kill head, you don't have to fight for the treasures from the 10th level lords. With the 2 long-range kills of the cannon and the coffin, you can steal and run away, and the safety is absolutely guaranteed. Okay, it's decided. Finally, Lin You made up his mind, and immediately left the place, searching around the nearby beam of light, specifically looking for traces of the Lord monster. As time went by, he gradually discovered that the monster plane was different from before. It seems that because the seal is loose, the monsters regenerate and advance faster. But even so, the number of 10th level bosses and Lord monsters is still in short supply. Every time one appears, it will be besieged by several or even a dozen 10th level lords, and those who can face the Lord monsters have at least 3 fragments of the Godhead, and each of them is not weak. Fortunately, Lin Yu's royal family is strong enough. With the blessing of 4 pieces of Godhead, he is not weak among all kings. Basically, you can kill a Lord monster in 2 or 3 battles, and then escape calmly. Relying on this method, he kept running around in the monster plane, participating in the encirclement and suppression of various lords and monsters, and became more and more comfortable in 10th level battles. Finally, until the 4th day, when a Lord monster was killed, the universe in his original space suddenly trembled slightly. In the galaxy closest to the world tree, intelligent life like primitive humans began to appear. The number of fruits of faith on the world tree instantly increased to 30, and it only takes 1 day to fully mature. There are actually so many more. Lin You looked at the fruit embryos hanging on the world tree in shock. He realized that he still underestimated his belief in the entire universe. It has only been a few days, and it has already grown to this point. Unfortunately, before he could think about it, the sound of fighting nearby pulled him back. Seeing that the Lord monster was successfully killed, and other 10th level lords were fighting for the rule fragments and treasures, he immediately teleported and disappeared away from this place of right and wrong. However, something unexpected happened this time. Just when he appeared thousands of miles away several times, the space in front of him suddenly rumbled and collapsed, and a void full of turbulence in the space blocked his way, making it impossible for him to teleport away. Lin You stood quietly in the air, looking around with sharp eyes. Boy, we meet again. As if in response to his words, 3 figures slowly appeared, surrounding him. It was the Chisha whom I had just met not long ago. It's you. Lin Yu's face darkened. I was so careful to hide my traces when I came out, but I didn't expect to be followed by the other party, and even brought 2 helpers over. After feeling it carefully, I found that the divine aura on those 2 people was not much weaker than Chisha. 3-4 Godhead Lords. Lin Yu's mood suddenly sank to the bottom. If it were just a 7 evils, he would not be afraid at all and could even fight for 300 rounds. But the 3 10th level lords, whose strength is comparable to his, are different. There is almost no possibility of victory. Aha! Without hesitation, when the space was stable, he teleported hundreds of kilometers away and rushed towards the war camp. But the next second, the space he was in collapsed again, and Chisha and the other 2 10th level lords appeared in front of him. You can't escape. Just hand over the fragments of your godhead. Chisha laughed arrogantly, and the powerful power of rules exploded, transforming into 100-foot undead, and sprayed a large amount of ghost fire at him, causing the entire space to shake violently. Undead system. Lin Yu's eyes narrowed. I just feel that under the pressure of this powerful force, the surrounding space has become extremely unstable. Forcibly crossing the space at this time will only greatly consume the power of the rules, and may even be involved in the turbulence of space and suffer serious damage. Not daring to hesitate, he immediately activated his strengthening skills, stepped into the void, and jumped out. Unexpectedly, at this time, the 2 10th level lords followed closely. Poisonous insects and vines appeared in the sky at the same time, rushing towards him, completely blocking his retreat. He is the leader of the insect and plant systems. Under the strong siege of the 3 people, Lin You had no choice but to activate the mirror wall skill to build a square protection around him. Boom. The mirror wall shook hard and was instantly shattered by 3 attacks. Lin You was knocked away together with a trace of blood on the corner of his mouth. Sure enough, it was too difficult for one person to block the attacks of 3 people. Even though he had activated his damage reduction skills in advance, he was still seriously injured, and he could only feel his energy and blood surge. Obviously, the attribute enhancement of these people is much higher than him. Fortunately, with the backlash of the explosion, he successfully escaped from the surroundings of the 3 people. With a thought, the space around him began to distort. Want to escape? Stop him. Seeing that Lin You actually blocked their joint attack, Chisha's expression changed slightly. His eyes became more murderous, and he immediately shouted and chased after him. Empty space. Lin You stretched out his arm, and an invisible wave suddenly spread, blocking the teleportation ability of Chisha and others, and then his body swayed and disappeared instantly. However, the direction of his escape this time was not towards the war camp, but into the depths of the monster plane, because the other party was obviously well prepared, and would never let him escape back to the camp so easily. In this case, let's give it a try. Lin Yu's eyes burned with murderous intent. At first, because the strength gap was too big, he couldn't resist. But now that he has reached the 10th level, it is time to settle old scores. No, he escaped over there. Seeing Lin Yu's escape direction, the insect lord's expression changed slightly. Damn it, how can the plant system have the ability to block space? Break it for me. Hearing Chisha's roar, the power of rules suddenly exploded in front of him, directly breaking the space blockade with brute force. Then the 3 disappeared again and chased Lin You. After chasing and escaping, the 2 sides gradually went deeper into the monster plane, getting closer and closer to one of the black light pillars. This made the plant lord unable to help but worry. 7 evils. If we continue to move forward, we may encounter high-level lord monsters. We may not be able to deal with them with our strength. What? Are you scared at this level? Don't forget that you took advantage of me and wanted to help me get the fragments of the godhead from that kid, Chisha said coldly. When the 2 heard this, they both smiled bitterly, but thinking of the great benefits Chisha promised to them, they didn't say anything more and even sped up to catch up with Lin You. Not long after, a few people arrived at a place less than 2,000 miles away from the light pillar. Boy, you can't escape. Chisha appeared in front of Lin You in a flash and punched out, knocking away the fleeing Lin Zhong. Without any nonsense, 10 heroic level undead bone dragons appeared out of thin air and suddenly spit out 10 undead breaths. The terrifying dragon's breath carried monstrous flames, dyeing the entire sky purple, creating a turbulent flow of space, and crashed down towards Lin You. At the same time, the other 2 people followed closely and took action one after another. For a moment, black clouds filled the sky, insects danced wildly, and countless vines rose into the sky, covering the void where they were. Lin You didn't dare to be careless. He was shocked. A huge piranha flower appeared behind him. It opened its mouth full of fangs and swallowed the 3 attacks that swept away. Boom! The violent energy exploded in the air, and the phantom of the piranha shattered, turning into a terrifying wave of air that surged out, shattering the surrounding space, and a huge bottomless abyss opened underneath. I didn't expect that you have grown to this point in such a short period of time. Seeing Lin You standing unharmed, Chisha's eyes became more murderous. Even the other 2 people had solemn expressions and were extremely shocked, because on the way here, Chisha had already told them that the other party was a 10th level lord, who had just advanced for a few days, and would not be too strong. The result was beyond their expectations. Not only was Lin Yu's strength not much weaker than theirs, but he also had endless methods. He actually blocked the 3 of them's attacks by himself. What if he continues to grow like this? It will definitely become a serious problem in their Taixuan world. This sun cannot be kept. For a moment, the way the 3 of them looked at Lin You changed and became even colder. There are many things you didn't expect. Lin You snorted coldly, not knowing what they were thinking, nor was he as relaxed as he seemed on the surface. It was still very difficult for him to resist several rounds of attacks from the opponent, coupled with the consumption of escaping. His current power of rules is less than half. If it continues like this, it may not be good for him. However, Chisha and the other 3 didn't give him a chance to think too much. Superior. With a loud shout, they took action again, and powerful attacks came crashing down, forcing him to once again travel through space to escape. Chase me! The 3 of them chased after him, and teleported behind him, unable to shake him off even if they tried. Finally, after several interceptions and fights, Lin You teleported and appeared on a barren, dark land. The space behind him was also distorted, and Chisha and the others crossed the space, and chased after him again. Only when they saw the scene in front of them, their eyes suddenly widened with a look of horror on their faces. I saw that on the entire dark land, there were dense white spider threads everywhere, connecting the ground and the sky. No, to be precise, it is connected to the soaring light pillar in the distance. The entire area of more than 1,000 kilometers around the light pillar was almost entirely covered by spider webs. Countless spider-shaped monsters wander inside. Vaguely, they could even see many huge figures, with such powerful aura that their hearts palpitated, as well as the reflections of terrifying spiders that appeared from time to time in the beam of light in the distance. Spider Mother, it's the Spider Mother's lair, the insect lord said tremblingly, unable to help but slow down. Ranked last among the 72 heavenly demons, Spider Mother Aloth is known to have many descendants of 10th and 11th levels, and is a terrifying existence that is best at deceiving people. Even if an 11th level lord breaks into it, he may not be able to escape intact. Unexpectedly, they accidentally broke into the Spider Mother's lair. That is to say, those huge black shadows are all monsters of level 10 or above, maybe even level 11. Boy, you dare to run into a place like this? Aren't you afraid of death? Chisha shouted in surprise from behind. You can catch up with me beforehand. Lin You sneered. His speed increased instead of decreasing, and he continued to go deeper into the spider's lair. Chase, I want to see how you die. Chisha's expression darkened, and he also sped up and chased after Lin You. The other 2 gritted their teeth and closely followed his pace. At this time, it is still on the outskirts of the Spider Mother's lair. As long as you are careful, you should not encounter any danger. However, they did not dare to teleport over long distances, because if they did not do it right, they would probably fall into the habitat of those powerful monsters, which would be dangerous. Just like this, they chased and escaped. As they flew all the way, they quickly left the entrance of the nest far behind them, and entered the nest. Lin You cut for a while, but he didn't expect these guys to be so persistent in pursuit and actually dare to chase in. In this case, don't leave. After thinking about it, he stopped and Kong Ming appeared beside him. A dazzling green light burst out, instantly illuminating the entire lair inside and outside. The ordinary spider that was crawling underneath was also instantly killed by the light, and the damage caused was converted into healing energy, which was fed back to him to heal his injuries. Damn it, do you want to die here? Seeing the large area of destroyed lair, Chisha stared angrily, not knowing his plan. I don't know whether you will die or not, but if you want to kill me, you have to pay a price. Lin You said coldly. In this case, it's even more difficult to stay here. Go, get rid of him first. Hearing Chisha's sharp shout, he summoned the undead bone dragon to attack Lin You again. The powerful power of rules surrounded him, and then turned into a huge force. Together with the other 2 people, he suppressed Lin You from 3 directions. Lin Yu's face darkened, and he launched into a savage roar without hesitation. With a wave of his hand, leaves all over the sky gathered in the sky, forming a solid wall. There was a banging sound in his ears, making the air shake violently. At the same time, Lingxi appeared, The light burst out from the staff, and the thorn winding activated. After the 10th level, Tangled by Thorns has changed from a single entity to a group. In the blink of an eye, the three Chishas and the flying soldiers around them were entangled in a large number of thorns and fell from the sky. Do you think you can defeat us with this method? Chisha snorted coldly, and a piece of ghostly fire ignited on his body, directly burning the thorns into ashes. The other two people also used their own methods to break free of the thorns. Immediately afterwards, Ivi's huge body appeared, and vines soared into the sky, entangling the fallen flying troops. At the same time, there was a bang in the vine forest, sparks exploded, and a fiery red stream of light swept straight towards Chisha. Chisha's expression changed, and he immediately formed a wall of undead bones in front of him. In a violent explosion, the bone wall collapsed, and the stream of flames passed through his shoulders. The severe pain made Chisha's face turn pale, and his eyes were full of shock. The power of the blow just now was so powerful that if it was hit head-on, it would be injured even if it didn't kill him. It made him look at Lin You with murderous intent, because the more he played against Lin You, the more he realized Lin Yu's terrifying potential. If we let him go today, it would be like letting the tiger go back to the mountain. Quick victory. Without hesitation, tens of thousands of troops were directly summoned by them to launch a fierce attack on Lin You again. The combined number of troops of the three of them was almost 4 times that of Lin You. If he confronts him head-on, he will definitely lose. This was also the reason why he didn't stop to fight the three people. Seeing a dangerous situation in front of us, there are pursuers behind us. As soon as he gritted his teeth, he was ready to summon his troops for a last-ditch effort. Blood, I smell blood. Suddenly, a charming voice sounded in the lair. Lin You and Chisha's expressions changed, and they stopped their movements and looked around carefully. However, after waiting for a while, no monster was found approaching. It was quiet all around, falling into an eerie silence. Until then, the plant lord thought of something and suddenly looked up at the crisscrossing spider threads in the sky. He happened to see a huge creature with a human face and a spider body hanging upside down above their heads, staring at them with a fierce look. And the moment he discovered the human-faced spider, the human-faced spider also let out a scream, opened its bloody mouth and spurted out countless spider silks, shooting towards the 4 of them. Careful. Next to Lin You, Ling Shi raised his staff high, and dense wooden thorns rushed out and swept straight towards the spider silk. However, what Lin You didn't expect was that the powerful wooden thorn was defeated immediately after touching the spider silk. It was not a one-time enemy at all. Without any time to think, he dodged and teleported a few meters away, avoiding this terrifying blow. Then he raised his head and looked at the human-faced spider. Name: Black Widow with human face. Lord: race: animal. Level 10, level A. Strength: 98,020, plus 68,614. Physique: 94,331, plus 66,032. Agility: 95,535, plus 66,875. Spirit: 98,576, plus 69,003. Skills: Spider Web Binding, Egg Laying, Charm, Dragnet, Chaos. All attributes increased by 70%. Introduction: a powerful monster known as the Poisonous Woman, who is extremely good at controlling enemies and making people lose their lives unconsciously. It is an extremely dangerous creature. Properties: averaging $160,000, more than twice his size. After reading the information in front of him, Lin You felt a storm in his heart. I didn't expect that I would actually attract such a terrifying monster. Not to mention the 3 Chishas, they were even more horrified. Withdraw. Almost without thinking, he prepared to travel through space and evacuate this place. Want to leave? It's not that easy. Lin You had been waiting for this moment, so how could he let them leave so easily? The power of rules exploded, and the void space skills were activated again, interrupting their teleportation ability. Damn it. Chisha's expression changed, and his eyes full of murderous intent were directed at Lin You. They had just spent a lot of money, and they couldn't use brute force to break through the space constraints in a short period of time. They had to summon their troops to their side and put into a defensive position. At this moment, Black Widow's sharp laughter sounded again. He didn't give them a chance to react, and directly activated the 10th level skill, Dragnet. Spider silk shot out from the sky with it as the center, instantly covering the entire area, weaving the area into a giant airtight cocoon with spider webs. Fortunately, Lin You was prepared. When the void space was activated, he had already put away his troops and exited the skill range, disappeared in place with a teleport, and hurriedly fled outside the lair. The next second, there was a loud bang, and the whole ground shook violently. The 3-7 evils actually worked together to break through the Black Widow's dragnet, flew out with blood spraying, and then teleported away from the lair, not dead. Lin You, who was waiting outside the lair, was shocked. He realized that he had underestimated Chisha's strength, able to survive head-on confrontations with level lord monsters. With this strength alone, he is proud enough, among the lords of the same level. Boy, I'm going to cut you into pieces. Chisha, whose face was covered with blood, caught up and blocked Lin Yu's way. At this time, his eyes were red, veins popped out on his arms, and he was obviously extremely angry. The conditions of the other two were even more tragic. One had a broken arm, and the other had half of his thigh broken, and they were bleeding profusely. In your current state, it's not easy to kill me, Lin You said indifferently, without taking action rashly, because the Black Widow is nearby. Once they fight, if time goes on, the Black Widow will definitely be attracted again, and it will not be so easy to escape by then. Chisha, he is right. We should leave here quickly, and go back to heal our wounds first, the insect lord said in a low voice. Yes, there is no need to risk your life for a piece of godhead fragment, the plant lord followed and said. Hearing this, Chisha also knew the pros and cons, so he immediately calmed down and looked at the two of them. Okay, I'll take you back to heal your injuries first. After saying that, he came directly to the two of them and supported them. The insect lord and the plant lord breathed a sigh of relief. They were really worried that Chisha would lose his mind and fight Lin You to the end. Seeing Chisha giving up, they finally felt relieved. Puff, but at this moment, the sound of flesh and blood being pierced suddenly sounded. The insect lord and the plant lord stared in disbelief at the bone blade that penetrated their chests. Turning around with difficulty, he saw Chisha holding the handles of the two bone blades with a cold look on his face. Don't worry, I will avenge you. A voice without any emotion came from Chisha's mouth. Their pupils shrank and they opened their mouths to say something, but in the end no sound came out. Their eyes went dark and they collapsed. This sudden change suddenly shocked Lin You. He never expected that these 7 evils would be so vicious, not even sparing his own companions, and even showing no change of expression. What a terrible character. And just as he was shocked, 2 crystals emitting colorful light slowly floated up and fell into Chisha's hands. Not good. Lin Yu's expression changed drastically, and he finally knew what the other party was going to do. Directly activate the swift shadow skill and rush away. At the same time, the power of rules explodes, and a powerful mental wave turns into a huge wave, crashing down towards Chisha. It's useless. You can't stop me. Chisha laughed wildly, and the 2 fragments of the godhead in his hand instantly turned into flowing light and merged into his body. Then a terrifying and boundless aura of violence erupted with him as the center, shaking away the mental fluctuations around him. His power has not diminished, and he is approaching Lin You. 6 fragments of godhead. Feeling the breath coming towards his face, Lin Yu's mood instantly sank to the bottom. He had thought about the worst-case scenario, but he never expected that it would develop to this point in the end. The 6 fragments of the godhead represent not only improvements in attributes, but improvements in all aspects. In particular, the range of the original space will be increased to 600 kilometers. Even if he wants to escape through space, he may not be able to escape. This is trouble. Lin Yu's heart was racing, thinking about how to deal with it. And Chisha, who had absorbed 2 fragments of his godhead, smiled more and more wildly. Boy, I really want to thank you this time for helping me improve my strength so much. I can kill even my companions. I don't want your thanks. Lin You snorted coldly, showing no intention of retreating. Ha ha ha, killing your companions. Chisha laughed a few times, and then his expression turned cold for a moment. So what? This world is naturally dominated by the weak and the strong. Their fault is that they trust others too easily. Ha ha. Since you also know that the weak eat the strong, you should know that your son's death was just in compliance with this law. You wanna die. When the scar was uncovered, Chisha's expression suddenly darkened, his aura became manic, and even the divine aura he had just absorbed began to become a little unstable. There's drama. Lin Yu's eyes lit up. He didn't expect that the murder of Chisha's son would have such a big impact on him, so he immediately struck while the iron was hot and said, Isn't it true? Or is your idea of the weak and the strong just a lie? Your son's death was just your own fault. Shut up. Chisha shouted loudly. His aura surged wildly, and he was obviously completely aroused. His red eyes were pointed at Lin Yu. Since you want to die so much, then I will make it happen for you. Without giving Lin Yu a chance to speak, the soles of his feet suddenly exploded, and his whole body turned into sharp arrows and shot out so fast. Lin Yu was shocked. The speed of the 6 divine fragments was indeed much faster than before. Not daring to be careless, he dodged to the side, and then with a thought tens of thousands of soldiers were summoned, spreading all over the sky and the earth. These were the mutant soldiers he had killed in the past few days by killing monsters and recruiting taxes from the Principality. It was not easy to reach tens of thousands. Master, we are here to help you. As soon as several royal families appeared, They immediately exploded with the power of nature and launched an attack on the 7 evils. Suddenly, vines flew and dense wooden thorns shot into the sky. "Get away!" Chisha roared angrily, and the fire of the netherworld exploded on his body, knocking away all attacks. Then a fierce light flashed in his eyes, and he teleported again and appeared behind Lin You, with the bone blade in his hand suddenly thrust out. When the war barrier lit up behind Lin You, blocking the fatal blow, the huge impact knocked him hundreds of meters away. The 7 evils were in hot pursuit, and he summoned countless bone dragon spirits and skeleton armies to launch a fierce attack on the plant army, forcing the royal family to return to defense for support, leaving only Lingxi to assist Lin You attack. Lin You stabilized his body and immediately waved his hand, and the leaves in the sky surged up, turning into a green torrent and sweeping towards Chisha. Lingxi raised her staff high and activated the king's majesty directly, suppressing the 7 evils in place. "Break it for me." Hearing Chisha's angry roar, the power of the 6 fragments of the godhead exploded, and it was the majesty of the king that forcibly broke away from Lingxi. Then the netherworld fire on his body burned blazingly, instantly burning the cold leaves to ashes. Lin You didn't stop. With a thought, several huge vines rushed out of the ground and wrapped around Chisha's body. Then several red mushrooms containing a strong flame aura turned into parabolas and fell to his side. Boom! There was a violent explosion, and the whole sky shook violently. Chisha was blown away with his arms crossed, except for his clothes, which were a little messy. He was actually unscathed. "I said, you must die today. It's not certain who will die." Seeing the 7 evils storming towards him, Lin You directly launched into a savage roar. His momentum finally equaled that of the 7 evils, and he collided with them fiercely. The 2 of them were going back and forth in the air, fighting for dozens of rounds. In the blink of an eye, violent explosions continued to be heard in their ears, and various skills exploded one after another. Lin You made an accident and was pierced through the thigh by the bone blade that exploded from the opponent's body, but he also took this opportunity to cut open the opponent's abdomen with a sword energy. Then the 2 sides fought together again, whoosh, until the savage roaring state was about to disappear. The sound of breaking through the air followed closely. The sharp wooden thorns formed a circle directly under Lynx's control and shot towards Chisha, forcing him to push back Lin You and retreat violently. Looking at the condition of the 2 of them, their bodies were covered with wounds. They looked seriously injured, and even their breath had weakened a lot. "You can fight me to this point. I underestimate you." Chisha stood in the air with a solemn gaze. "I thought he was just a 10th level lord who had just advanced and could be killed easily, but he didn't expect that he could fight to such an extent with the 6-piece godhead himself." The potential was so terrifying that he couldn't help but be secretly frightened, and the murderous intent in his eyes became even more intense. And at this time, Lin Yu's condition was extremely bad, not to mention that the power of the rules is almost exhausted. Even the injuries can be barely maintained by relying on Lynx's healing skills. After taking a look at the battle situation below, it was already in a stalemate, and it was obviously impossible to get more royal families to step aside to help. "You can hardly hold it anymore, right?" Chisha saw the change in Lin Yu's aura and smiled proudly. Although he suffered heavy injuries from the Black Widow, the 2 fragments of his godhead he had just absorbed restored most of his power of rules. In comparison, Lin You, who has been fighting with such high intensity, naturally cannot persist for such a long time. He is just at the end of his strength. As long as he kills him, he will be able to add another fragment of his godhead and become a high-ranking king in one fell swoop. Thinking of this, he no longer gave Lin You a chance to breathe. The space under his feet exploded, and his whole body turned into a sharp arrow and shot out. Lin Yu's face darkened. He knew that if he kept his hand any longer, he might really have to confess here today. Buzz! The last trace of rule power exploded, turning into a spiritual wave that spread around. Chisha was halfway through the charge when he found himself in a twisted forest full of blue thorns. Sharp laughter kept coming from his ears, disturbing his spirit. It is the illusion skill of Deep Blue Dream. Lin You knew very well that this level of illusion could not trap the other party for long, so there was no hesitation, and the final countdown was started directly, reversing the state to 1 minute ago. Not only did the injuries disappear, but the power of the rules was also restored to 1/3 then. Thousands of 10th level corpses collected during this period were thrown out and exploded into a ball of blood mist, which then turned into bloody torrents and merged into his body. Boom! Just then, there was a loud noise in the distance. In less than a few breaths, the dark blue dreamland was blasted away by the 7 evils, and at a glance he could see the blood energy gathering around Lin You. "It's useless. No matter what methods you use, you can't be my opponent." Chisha shouted loudly, crushed the void with his foot, and rushed towards Lin You again. And at this time, Lin You also completely absorbed all the blood energy and his eyes flashed red. Roar! A loud roar sounded behind him. The savage roar starts again. What? The Chisha's expression changed as he rushed forward. He didn't expect that Lin You still had the energy to activate his skills, and it was also the explosive skill he had just activated. However, the arrow was on the string and had to be fired, so he immediately summoned 12% of his strength and poured it into the bone blade in his hand. Die! He crossed the void with one foot, and the bone blade in his hand suddenly expanded, turning into endless sword light, and crashed down towards Lin You. Wherever it went, the space was shattered and collapsed into countless fragments. Looking at the oncoming giant blade, Lin You looked solemn. He grabbed his hand and a sword made of vines condensed instantly. In an instant, blood light shot into the sky, converging on the sword, and collided fiercely with Chisha's sword light. Boom! A terrifying storm swept across the entire sky. The troops of both sides fighting below were blown away thousands of feet, with almost no resistance, and huge bottomless cracks opened on the ground, spreading out in all directions like spider webs. Also being blown away at the same time was the Chisha holding a bone blade. His wide eyes were filled with disbelief and horror. Then a mouthful of blood spurted out, staining the sky with blood. How can you still have the power of rules? He covered his abdomen with one hand and finally stopped himself from screaming. On his abdomen, there was a huge wound that was as deep as the bone, running through his waist. There are still many things you don't know. Lin You snorted coldly. He had never exploded, and was waiting for this opportunity. Without giving the opponent time to react, he stepped into the void, teleported and appeared in front of Chisha, and stabbed out with a sword. Boom! There was a muffled sound, and a bone shield blocked his attack. Chisha turned pale and turned around, and ran away without hesitation. However, after being hit hard by Black Widow and Lin You one after another, his speed slowed down a lot. As soon as he escaped a certain distance, he was immediately blocked by Ling Si, who arrived and was not allowed to escape through space. But the next second, there was a loud bang, and a fiery red stream of light crossed the space and appeared behind him, and the majesty of the king activated by Lin You, with the power of rules also fell, suppressing him in place. Under the dual blessing of bloody madness and savage roar, Lin Yu's strength has reached an extremely terrifying level, directly suppressing Chisha and being unable to move. No! Chisha's eyes widened to the extreme, and he wanted to run away, but he could only watch the stream of light pass through his chest. A heartbreaking pain rushed into his mind, causing his vision to blur. His vision went black, and he fell from the air. Afraid that he was not dead, Ling Shi, who came over, raised his staff and shot out countless wooden thorns, turning his broken body into a hornet's nest. Then with a bang, he fell heavily to the ground, splashing a large amount of smoke and dust. Looking at the 7 evils falling to the ground, Lin You let out a sigh of relief. Although the reminder hadn't sounded in his mind yet, he could clearly feel the Chisha's vitality rapidly dissipating. Without thinking much, he appeared next to Chisha with Ling Si, and found that he was staring blankly at the sky with empty eyes. There is basically no intact part of the body. I lost. Chisha opened his mouth and struggled to spit out a few words, probably because he was about to die. The arrogance in his voice was gone, and the anger in the past was gone. You lose. Lin You responded calmly, as if answering his words. Hearing this, Chisha laughed at himself, and his eyes became dazed. He stretched out his hand as if he wanted to hold something, but after trying hard for a while, he finally failed to hold it, and fell heavily. A breeze blew by, and a reminder sounded in Lin Yu's mind. Kill the 10th level Lord of the Alien Plane, and obtain 54 billion mana. The moment the prompt fell, all the undead soldiers in the distance howled, and turned into withered bones. And on Chisha's body, a fragment of the godhead emitting colorful light slowly floated up, making it dazzling. Lin You took a deep breath, and slowly put away the fragments of his godhead. Feeling the Black Widow's aura approaching here, he didn't dare to stay any longer. After disposing of the body, he recalled his troops and disappeared in a flash, heading back towards the war camp. This battle can be said to be full of dangers and constant changes. First, there was the pursuit of 3 10th level lords, then the appearance of Lord level monsters, then the 7 evils killed their companions, and finally the 2 sides fought. Every step was thrilling. Fortunately, Lin You had the foresight, and had been collecting monster corpses. Although the number of 10th level monsters has been greatly reduced, the corpses accumulated in the past few days allowed him to explode with the strongest combat power at the last moment, killing the 7 evils in the state of 6 fragments of Godhead in one fell swoop. This was also thanks to the sudden appearance of the Black Widow, who severely damaged the 7 evils first. Otherwise, if the opponent was in his prime, he would probably be the loser in the end. It can only be said that fate plays tricks on people, or it is the result of him working hard enough to win. After taking a look at the only trace of the power of law left in his body, and the severely injured internal organs. Lin You did not hesitate anymore, and took out the fragments of his godhead as he hurried on. Would you like to absorb fragments of the godhead? Absorb. With a slightly trembling voice, the fragment of the godhead in his hand turned into a stream of light and merged into his body. Fusion with the godhead in his body. The power of rules, which had been nearly exhausted, began to recover rapidly. A violent energy surged crazily in his body, colliding with his limbs and bones, and his aura continued to rise. Lin You felt that his strength had improved a lot. Excited, I quickly clicked on the personal interface to view it. Name, Lin You. Lord. Race, human. Level 10, 5/10. Strength, 50,030, plus 25,015. Physique, 50,088, plus 33,058. Agility, 50,030, plus 25,015. Spirit, 50,088, plus 25,044. Basic skills, double mutation, power of rules, space shuttle, rule transformation, power of godhead, all attributes plus 50%. Racial talent, physical fitness plus 16%, recovery speed plus 16%. Introduction. The Lord attribute interface records the specific strength and various skills of the Lord, which can be unlocked by 10th level lords. With one more fragment of the godhead, the average attributes increased by 5,000 to more than 75,000. The only pity is that Lynx's all-attribute aura and King Gang's physical aura are only effective for soldiers, otherwise his attributes would be higher. However, as a lord, his basic attributes are higher than those of the royal family, all reaching the full value of the 10th level. With this addition and one subtraction, it will just be equal. When he absorbs enough rule fragments in the future, his basic attributes will improve, and he will naturally become stronger. After thinking about it, Lin You turned off the interface, used the newly restored power of rules to cast a few healing spells on himself, and accelerated towards the outside of the monster plane. After the number of godhead fragments increased to 5, his original space increased to 500 kilometers, the teleportation distance also increased, and the traveling speed became much faster. But what surprised Lin You the most was the change after the original space became larger. The number of galaxies inside seems to be more than before. Although it has not given birth to life yet, in the near future, it will definitely greatly increase the number of fruits of faith. Pity, Lin You murmured to himself, and couldn't help but regret not being able to grab the 2 fragments of the godhead from Chisha's hands. If he can get those 2 pieces, his strength will definitely skyrocket instantly, and he will get a qualitative leap. But once the gods are fused, they will become one. Even if you kill it, you will only drop 1 piece. The situation was so urgent at that time, it was basically impossible to prevent Chisha from absorbing those 2 fragments of godhead, and they could only be wasted by him. Forget it, it's not bad to have a piece. Lin You was content and didn't worry about this kind of thing for too long. After all, it's not his thing. No matter how much you force it, it's useless. It's better to just let nature take its course. Thinking of this, he crossed the space again and disappeared in place. After more than a dozen teleportations, he finally returned to the war camp, and teleported back to his territory through the cross-border formation. What he didn't know was, not long after he left, the news of the death of Chisha and the others spread throughout the war camp instantly like a hurricane. Lords from all walks of life were in an uproar, and they were all discussing this matter. 3 10th level kings died in Taixuan realm. Is it true or false? Is the news accurate? Those are 3 10th levels. I heard that they went out together this morning, but by noon the territory in the Principality was gone. Damn, 3 of them disappeared together. Could it be the Realm Alliance's doing? It's very possible that I saw them going to the monster plane today. They probably met the strong people on the opposite side, or they met high-level monsters, killing 3 10th level ones at once. What kind of strength does it take to do that? Lords from all walks of life exclaimed again and again, and all kinds of gossip were flying all over the sky. However, many of them pointed to the Realm Alliance and high-level monsters, and no one suspected Lin You, not even the news in the Taixuan world obviously. When Chisha and the others set out, they did not let others know their specific actions, but instead helped Lin You invisibly. And even if they had suspicions, they wouldn't be able to suspect a lord who had just upgraded to the 10th level. How could he, a newly promoted lord, be able to kill 3 old lords by himself? I'm afraid not many people would believe it, especially now that there is still a war in the realm. Even the emperor will fall, and it seems that it is not unusual for several 10th level kings to die, and no one will think of him certainly, except for one person. That is Jizing, the king of the great wilderness principality. When Jizing heard that among the 3 dead 10th level people, Chisha was also among them, His expression immediately became alarmed and uncertain. Could it be him? Jizing couldn't help but flash back to the scene in the war camp. Even now, he still remembers Lin Yu's words, "I will solve it myself," very clearly. I originally thought it was just an impulsive remark, but now when I heard the news of Chisha's death, I suddenly felt that something was wrong. Could it be that Chisha's death was related to Lin Yu? As soon as this idea appeared, even he was shocked. However, Jizing also knew that this matter was of great importance, and he could not make any hasty conclusions. And even if that was the case, he couldn't spread the word, because it would only bring trouble to the primitive world, the Xinyao Empire. It seems like we have to find a chance to ask. Jizing thought silently, then looked at his subordinates, who came to report, and continued to ask for news about Taixuan realm, the other side. Lin Yu didn't know that Jizing had guessed the truth of the matter based on some clues from the beginning. At this time, he had already arrived under the World Tree, and began to recruit troops with the magic energy he had just obtained. In this battle, he lost a total of thousands of troops, leaving only less than 9,000. Fortunately, he got a huge sum of 54 billion mana by killing the 7 evils, so he could finally recruit all the troops. He no longer had to send the royal family to support him every time because he had fewer troops than others like before, that's all. Using the newly obtained magic energy, Lin Yu quickly recruited 15,000 soldiers, spending almost 50 billion, and still had 4 billion left. We're finally full. Lin Yu couldn't help but sigh as he looked at the vast plant soldiers spread throughout the palace. Then he called 10 royal families, and began to arrange teams for them. It is worth mentioning that, after he reached the 10th level, the forest sage, who had no level or attributes, also learned a new skill. Name: Forest Sage, Royal Family, Race, Plant Grade, Strength, Constitution, Agile, Spirit, Skills, Sage's Light, gain additional experience. Rule Surround, skill consumption reduced by 30%. Peaceful Domain, all attacks are invalid for 10 seconds. Natural Harmony, it will not be attacked and cannot attack. Light of Life, expand the field, so that friendly parties within 1 kilometer will be blessed by the rules. When the friendly party receives a fatal blow, it will forcibly retain 1 point of physical fitness for 10 seconds. Introduction: the tree spirit has the most profound knowledge, has a deep understanding of the power of rules, is gifted by the god of nature, and loves peace. Lin Yu originally thought that there was no level or attribute information about the forest sage, and his skills were fixed, so he didn't pay much attention to it. In the end, he actually learned a new skill, which surprised him. Forced to retain 1 attribute point. This effect is absolutely terrifying. Used together with the peaceful domain, it is equivalent to 20 seconds of invincibility. It is very powerful to use to save your life at critical moments. However, the royal family of forest sages is extremely special. Lin Yu couldn't use all its skills, as if they were all beyond the rules. For the next period of time, nothing major happened, except for the 2 camp team marches during this period. Lin Yu basically traveled between the territory and the monster plane, snatching the kills of the Lord's monsters and accumulating strength, because during the war, it was very difficult to kill the 10th level Lord on the opposite side. As soon as you hit the opponent hard, other 10th level Lords will come to rescue you, without giving you a chance to attack. This resulted in the armies of both sides gradually falling into a stalemate, and their side's advancement was very slow. In half a month, we have only advanced tens of thousands of kilometers. Compared to the area of a continent, it is still too small. But the good news is, after half a month of accumulation, various galaxies in Lin Yu's original universe began to breed intelligent life. The number of faith fruits on the world tree has also skyrocketed to 50 per day, which is equivalent to 50 rule fragments. Even the Principality's faith output has finally exceeded 10,000, and it can be exchanged for 1 more rule fragment every day. Adding both sides together, the harvest in this half month alone is 560, except for 10 used to reward the subordinate lords and exchange materials. The rest all became his attributes. Name: Lin Yu. Lord: Race: Human. Level: Level 10, 5/10. Strength: 50,305, plus 25,153. Physique: 50,913, plus 33,603. Agility: 50,305, plus 25,153. Spirit: 50,913, plus 25,457. Basic skills: double mutation, power of rules, space shuttle, rule transformation, power of godhead, all attributes plus 50%. Racial talent: physical fitness plus 16%, recovery speed plus 16%. Introduction: the Lord attribute interface records the specific strength and various skills of the Lord, which can be unlocked by 10th level Lords. Sure enough, it's still a bit slow. Looking at the personal attributes in front of him, Lin You frowned slightly. With his current attributes, he is fine against ordinary 10th level lords, but has no advantage against those old kings. After all, they have been developing for much longer than me, and their background must be deeper. This is not the point. The most important thing is that his royal family also needs rule fragments, otherwise it will not be able to take advantage of the godhead of the arms. At most, it will only be stronger than ordinary arms. It is almost impossible to achieve the level of killing the Lord Monster independently in a short period of time. It seems that we have to find another way to speed up the progress. Lin You thought silently. Whether it is the original universe or the development of the Principality, a large amount of resources are required. In particular, the original universe is definitely his biggest trump card for his current rise, and it is also a unique advantage that other 10th level lords cannot copy. Although it is still unknown why this universe was born in his body, but since it is an advantage, it must be taken advantage of and not wasted. Boom! Just as he was thinking, a loud noise interrupted his thoughts. The originally peaceful Wanji continent suddenly began to shake violently. In the monster plane in the center of the 10,000 Realms continent, a black beam of light lit up and shot straight into the sky. What happened? What happened again? Look over there! Exclamations continued throughout Huangsha City, and the citizens ran to the streets one after another, looking at the dark pillar of light that was vaguely visible at the end of the mainland. And in a blink of an eye they became a mess. Channels in various countries were also shocked by this sudden turn of events, and messages flooded in crazily. What's going on? Could it be that the Realm Alliance is up to something else? It seems to be on the monster plane. Did some treasure appear? Let's go and take a look first. During the discussion, lords from all walks of life teleported to the battlefield of the realm one after another to inquire about news. Some people who were very close to the monster plane rush directly from their own territory to the monster plane to find out. And at this time, deep in the monster plane, around the pillar of light guarded by Spider Mother Aloth, unfathomable cracks appeared on the earth and continued to spread in all directions. A strong evil spirit emerged from it, almost covering the entire area. And high in the sky, a huge skull floated there, violently attacking the light beam. Motion, stop struggling fearlessly. It is impossible for you to break the seal with just the strength of a part of your body. In the beam of light, the huge Spider Mother Aloth with a graceful body was majestic. Her 8 compound eyes bloomed with bloody light, blocking all the attacks of the skeleton. Around her, countless offspring surged wildly, blocking the attacks of the chaotic beasts around her. Spider monsters of the 10th and 11th levels abounded. There were even 5 huge black demon spiders standing next to her. His aura was terrifying, but he was not much weaker than the great emperor of all realms. To know, this is just the devil who ranks at the bottom. Blocked by her heirs, the evil energy of the skull in the sky surged, but it was difficult to get even close. The attacks that destroyed the world continued to fall, causing the entire monster plane to shake violently. You little reptile dares to talk to me like this. My master was just a defeated general in front of me. So what if my generals are defeated? In the end, I was suppressed by my master for 10,000 years. As long as we are here, you can't even think of escaping from the seal. The Spider Mother's voice was sharp, and her aura suddenly surged, causing the whole world to surge violently, and gradually suppressed the evil energy that emerged from the cracks. However, some of the evil energy still escaped before the cracks were repaired, turning into pieces of black crystal and integrating into the bodies of those chaotic beasts. Immediately afterwards, these chaotic ferocious beasts roared together, broke free from the Spider Mother's encirclement, roared and scattered towards the periphery, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Ha ha ha! The period of 10,000 years is coming. Let's see how long you can hold on. Motion's laughter resounded throughout the world, and the skull turned into evil energy and broke through the space, disappearing in place, leaving only a mess on the ground, and the stern-faced Spider Mother. Go, intercept and kill those ferocious beasts, and you must not let Motion's power be absorbed by more people. As soon as the voice fell, the descendants also scattered in all directions to pursue the fleeing chaotic beasts at the same time. Lords from all walks of life have also rushed to the realm battlefield. After the initial search for information, someone immediately formed a team and entered the monster plane, and began to explore everywhere. Look, what is that? Suddenly, not far from one of the teams, a group of black ferocious beasts appeared and approached them quickly. It seems like a monster. No, it's a little different from the monster's breath. No matter, let's get rid of them first. While shouting, several lords immediately summoned their troops and surrounded the group of black ferocious beasts. After a fierce battle, all the ferocious beasts were killed within a short time. Then they were surprised to find that these strange 8th level ferocious beasts actually exploded a large number of black crystal blocks. When he picked it up, and looked at it, his eyes suddenly widened. Crystal of Faith. It's actually a crystal that adds faith. Damn it, it's true. A crystal adds 100 faith. It's amazing. These ferocious beasts can actually explode such things. Then what are you waiting for? Let's look for it quickly before anyone else comes. In excitement, the few of them did not stop any longer and continued to explore the monster plane, looking for the whereabouts of other chaotic beasts. And this news, like a hurricane, quickly spread throughout both camps, causing an uproar. Suddenly, countless lords poured in, making the entire monster plane lively, and the battle between the two camps soared. Lin You is just like them. After learning that a chaotic beast appeared in the monster plane, he also entered the monster plane with the other 10 levels, and his target is naturally the mutated light beam. However, he did not act together with the other 10th levels. Instead, he relied on the teleportation distance advantage of the 5 godhead fragments to enter the depths of the monster plane first. It's exactly what the news said. In the monster plane at this time, in addition to the original monsters, there are also many chaotic beasts. They are very similar to the soldiers used by the black-eyed young man, and they are all composed of evil energy. You don't need to think about it to know that it must be related to the terrifying existence suppressed under the monster plane. Master, I feel the aura of Godhead from that monster. At this time, Kong Ming's neutral voice sounded from the side, interrupting his thoughts. Lin Yu was startled. He followed Kong Ming's spiritual connection, and looked into the distance. Sure enough, he saw a 10th level ferocious beast running in a barren mountain. It was faintly exuding the aura of a fragment of the Godhead. These chaotic beasts actually have fragments of their Godhead on them. How can this be? I felt it too, but the aura seemed different from ours. Lynx's voice sounded immediately, and he also appeared next to Lin Yu. Her eyes were very solemn, as if she noticed something unusual. No matter, let's go down and take a look first. The fragments of the Godhead were so close before his eyes. How could Lin Yu let them go so easily? After taking a look around and seeing no one there, he immediately appeared in the barren mountains below and blocked the path of the chaotic beast. Roar! The chaotic beast was still escaping from the spider mother's pursuit. When Lin Yu appeared, it roared at him with murderous intent and stopped running. Lin Yu took this opportunity to finally see its attributes clearly. Name: Chaos Fierce. Lord. Race: Chaos. Level: Level 10. Power: 95,000. Physique: 95,000. Agility: 95,000. Spirit: 95,000. Skills: Brutal Bite, Shadow Transformation, Space/Dark Incarnation. Introduction: a ferocious beast that mutated from the energy of chaos, is extremely aggressive and cruel. There is no chaos level lord monster. Lin Yu was shocked when he saw the interface in front of him, and then he couldn't help but get excited. Although the attribute of 95,000 is very high for him now, it is not as invincible as the F-class lord. As long as 10 royal families and tens of thousands of soldiers are gathered together, there is still a high chance that they can be killed. Seeing that other kings might arrive at any time, he didn't dare to hesitate anymore, and directly summoned all the troops with a wave of his hand. Do it! With a loud shout, 15,000 troops, led by the royal family, surrounded the lord-level ferocious beast.
Thank you for watching Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share and subscribe. Have a great day.